Hey guys, Chris James here. Welcome back to another video. Duplicating an item or a shape around a circle is quite easy in Illustrator now because of the built-in features. But when you pair it up with sort of a design like a mandala, you can create some great effects, and that's what I want to show you in today's video. So I'm here in Adobe Illustrator and I've already got my artboard set up to 1080 by 1080 pixels. Now the first thing I want to do is go over to the ellipse tool and I want to create sort of like a petal shape. What I do is go back to the ellipse tool, create another circle, and I want to align this obviously in the center or in the middle, just somewhere. And at this point I'm just creating shapes to make it look nice and a bit like intricate. So now I've got that selected, what I'm gonna do is actually I'll duplicate this by clicking Command C, Command F, and I want that as in the middle but intersecting. Just change this so you can see. So I want to highlight all these, make sure they're aligned, and click Command G to group them. And now what I want to do is come down to Effect, Distort and Transform, and then Transform. So here we can sort of set how many copies we want of this duplication, and we can also set where we want it to be duplicating from. So like that could be the center, but what we want to do is to create sort of like a circular effect. I'm just going to click that little square in the middle at the bottom, and that'll ensure that we're taking our rotate copies from the bottom of this black circle. So how many copies? We'll say about 8 should be enough. Now to ensure we get a perfect circle and make sure that none are overlapping or you get a massive gap at the end, which has sometimes happened to me in the past, there's a simple equation that we can do to ensure that we get it nice and even. So because we know a circle is always 360 degrees, type that in, click the little /, and then we want to click 8 because that's what we want, and we want to tab it. So then now we know it's a 45-degree angle, click preview, and there you can see we've got that. But because it's done 8 copies plus the original, we need to get rid of 1, so that'll be down to 7. So now we've got that selected, you can click OK. Now obviously they're all still grouped together, and what I would tend to do is keep them grouped until I know that the design's final. So what I want to do now is just move that over to one side, and I'm going to create another circle. That, and just scale it inside itself so we get a nice circle. Again, I'll change the colours. To the artboard, horizontally and vertically, and that'll just make sure that now we're working with this, that it'll all be central. So now what we want to do is just make sure that we've got this aligned in the middle, but that the bottom of the circle is at the center point. So with that selected, we can double click to isolate inside the group, click both the petal and the circle, and now we can just drag it out. Make sure you keep the shift button clicked to make sure it's always centralized, and now we can work on getting this sort of shape, maybe a little bit out. That's quite nice. Now, a good thing now sort of working this way is that we can add shapes into it. So we can add a circle. Again, obviously, we want to make sure before we exit the isolation that it's all lined up nicely, otherwise it'll start going off center. That seems quite nice. I'll just maybe shrink the circle down a little bit. That's quite nice. Perfect. So obviously we click into the outline view, we can see we've got this main circle here which we need to get rid of because we don't want it sort of clogging up the sort of design. So we need to go to object, make sure I've clicked it, object, expand, Command Shift G to ungroup them all. And now what we can do is we could just go around the circle and just delete all these extras. So now we've got that, we just want to make it a bit more colourful in what colour palette we're using. So I'll just start going round. The first sort of section done, near enough. What I want to do now is from this centre point, because we know everything's centralised, I want to just duplicate this and make sure that we've got a circle. Will help us in a minute when we come to create another circle. So we want to duplicate this circle by clicking Command C, Command F, so it duplicates it over the top. And we want to sort of align this with this circle, and I'll change the colour just so you can see. So now we want to basically just copy and duplicate this, move it up so that the bottom is aligned into the centre, click the circle, group them together, and now we can use a shortcut because we've already used the transform button, and we can just click apply transform from the effects panel, the first one on the drop down, and that'll create sort of 8 circles which are around these shapes we've already created. Now we don't want these to be here, we want them to be situated in the middle of these two. So what we need to do is object, expand appearance, and now what we can do is using the rotate, we can rotate them around so that they're in the middle. And also what we can do is just scale them in a little bit so they're sort of all contained within this big circle. And there we go, that's the first section done. Just move that out of the way. Oh, sorry, what we need to do now is ungroup them all and then just delete these circles again. There we go. So the next part is sort of the main Mandala effect, and again all revolving around sort of circular shapes. So we just want to get our first shape, we want to align that horizontally so that's in the middle, and now what we want to do is take this, shrink it. Actually what I'll do is I will object path, offset path 20, maybe 25. We're going to change the stroke, change the colour of the stroke. I want to increase this stroke. What I want to do is make sure it's inside. Now with this particular design we're using sort of like a scalloped edge, and to create that obviously we go into the strokes properties. We want to change the cap to round cap, round corner. Now a line stroke doesn't really matter too much, but it's mainly just this dash line. We want to create a gap, and then this will obviously help with our scallop. You don't need to worry too much, but what I'll do is I'll show you how you can create this and then obviously get it so that it's a complete shape rather than loads of looks like circles. So what we want to do is just try and find something that looks quite nice, and we want to just make sure that obviously the circles are all touching. Sometimes you can do that by using a gap, or you can just increase the width of the stroke. So what we want to do now is Object, Expand, Fill and Stroke, Object, Compound Path, Release, and then we can just go to Pathfinder, click the Unite button, and we've got a nice scalloped edge, which obviously we can change colour, we can add a stroke to it, we can do all sorts to it. So with this selected, I want to now create another shape all around the circle, and to do that I'm just going to use the original circle we started with, change the stroke, and we want to sort of create it so it's just within the scalloped edge. That'll create a bit of a sort of boundary. And now what we want to do is again duplicate this outer circle, and with holding Option and Shift we can scale it inside itself, and it'll make sure that it's all still even. So now we've got that, we want to start creating this sort of shape around the outside. So we want to go back to our ellipse tool, we want to create sort of another leaf sort of shape. We want to just make sure that this is aligned in the centre. Change the colour just so you can see what it is. And now we want to just, for now, just make sure that's near enough touching that outside shape. And now with this selected, I want to create another circle. Just want to make sure that's aligned. Now with that aligned, again we want to go to Effect, Transform. Now this time we want a lot more of these shapes, so I want to go for something like 17, we'll see what that looks like. So we want 360 divided by 17 equals 21.18. I'll preview that. Now we want to go back to the outline view and make sure that bottom circle is touching the centre line. And now we want to bring this back into place. Oh, sorry, I forgot to group them. So now we've got that aligned and grouped. Effect, Transform, Preview, okay. And we want to go to Outline View. Holding Shift, get this circle into the middle. And then in isolation mode, we want to just bring this petal back up so we've got it near enough touching that outer circle. And now what we want to do with this selected is we want to make sure that they are touching a little bit more than what they are. So what I want to do is just move these out slightly, and we're looking for this sort of arch section here, what we want, which looks pretty good. I'm just going to change the colour to white, sorry, for a second, just so I can see it. I think that'll work. So now with that selected, obviously again we want to go to Object, Expand, I want to ungroup, I want to delete all these circles. Now what I want to do is actually, to make things easier, I'll just select them all and go to the Pathfinder, and what I want to do is just create these as all one shape. I'll just make things a lot easier after, and there we go. So now we want to click Object, Path, Offset the path. Instead of being -25, we'll do -10. Looks quite good. I'm going to click OK, change the colour. And now what we want to do again is Object, Path, Offset the path. Another 10. click OK, but this time we're going to go back to the stroke. So I've stroked it, no fill, just a stroke. We want to click the cap to round, corner to round, and we want dashed line. We want to just increase the stroke width. I'll change the colour just so you can see what I'm doing. And now we've got some nice circles all following the shape of the stroke. Now one thing you do want to do now is just make sure you've got this aligned dashes to corners, and that'll just ensure that there's always a circle at the point. And now with this you can sort of play around with how many circles you want, but I think that might do nicely. So now we've got that, we don't really need to do anything with it. You can obviously expand it to make them all circles, but for the purpose of this I'll keep them as they are, just in case I need to go back into them afterwards and tweak them. So now what we can do is paste that. Now because we used the shape builder tool before, all of the shapes underneath have obviously been cut out to create this, but don't worry, we can create a simple fix for this circle, and that's just to create another circle over the top. I find this is pretty easy, like the easiest to do quickly, just so you're not messing about. Just make sure it's touching, click both of them, go to Pathfinder. So now we've got this covering all the others. We can just highlight them both, go to Unite in the Pathfinder tool, and that'll create another circle from what we can work with now. I'll just change the colour, and we just want to shrink it inside itself, so that's Option Shift, and we just want to now create a nice stroke similar to what we did before. We want to stroke, cap, cap, dash line, and we just want to make sure that they're touching. So I'm just trying to emulate this outer scallop. So with that done, like I said, object, expand, object, expand, object, compound path, release, and then again in the shape builder, or the Pathfinder should I say, we can click the Unite, and now we've got a nice scalloped edge. Now what I want to do is just bring this edge slightly up, just so we're covering the circles at that point, so it kind of, they just all sort of fall nicely into place. And again, now what we want to do, I'm going to create another stroke similar to what we did here, but this time I want it a little bit like, so it's not touching this, like the edges, it's more sort of getting away from the scalloped edge. So that's looking quite nice. So now we just want to add some extra circles. So what I want to do is have a look, click a line. So now I know that's in the middle of the artboard and everything else is surrounded that. Want to duplicate, group, effect, apply transform, and with that now selected, sorry, what I should have done, and then apply transform, change them to white so they match, expand all. So now what a quick way to, where I've been before is deleting all these little circles. A quick way to do it is obviously, instead of highlighting them all, you can click the lasso tool, just go around the shapes, delete, and there you go. That's looking quite nice, but actually what I want to do with these is increase the stroke because they looked a bit too small. That looks quite good. And now with this can obviously come into play. Ooh. Make sure I select them all. And again, we just want to make sure that that's in the center. And with that in the center, now we can just copy this, shrink this down. And it's basically just about playing around until you find something that you're happy with. Sorry, I don't like that. Let's just get rid of that. That's looking quite nice. Still too... I'll change this colour. I think it's a bit too dark. That's looking a little bit better. I just don't like this white space here. What I'll do is I will create some circles. So again, Option Shift. I want to just bring that slightly in from that, so it's like that. Go to the stroke, and we want to create these circles again and make them big so we can see what we're doing. And now what I want to do is just try and make sure that each of the points of this petal has a circle pretty much in the middle. We'll just keep doing that until they all pretty much. And obviously this will be a bit of trial and error. That might work. So now, yeah, that'll do, I think. So now, Object, Expand. We want to make sure they're all individual, ungroup. Now what I want to do is just go in and delete two from the middle, one, so one, two from the middle, one, and I'll just continue doing this, just so we get like a 3. Now there might be an easier way to do this, but I've not really found it yet. If there is any easier ways, let me know in the comments below. There we go. So suppose that the circles aren't that sort of uniform and symmetrical, but I think that sometimes gives the design a bit of an edge, makes it feel a bit more handmade, even though it's all produced on the computer. So now I just need to fill in this little gap, and again what I'm going to do is create a circle. Change the colour so you can see it, but I'll be changing it back to white once we've done the design. I want to duplicate it. Again, I want to make sure that it's directly underneath and just intersecting. I want to group them, Effect, Transform. What I want is like a bit of a, sort of like a flower effect. So I'll just see how this 360 divided by 6 equals, I think that might work. So I'll just take one off. Object, ungroup, oh sorry, object expand, object ungroup. You just want to go around and delete these, and then with that one, just want to make sure that it's nice in the center. Change this to white, shrink it down. And now obviously similar to before when we did these circles, I want to just align it in the middle. Change the colour so you can see. Duplicate this, make sure that it's intersect. There we go. And we just want to make sure that we count all these just to make sure, because this is the amount we'll need. So we'll want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, I think that was. So now we've got that selected. Effect, transform, 17 from the bottom. 360 divided by 17 equals 21, minus the 1, 16, preview, perfect. And we want to make sure that this circle, again, just the bottom is touching the center line, or the center. We don't actually want the circle in the center, just want the bottom bit to touch that line. Now with that selected, we can go into each individual circle, grab them ones, zoom out, and with this selected, we just want to bring it similar to where it'll be positioned. That seems quite nice. I'm just going to shrink it slightly, just so it fits in a bit with these circles. And I'll change the colour back to white because it'll make it easier now to do it white than afterwards. Now we want to object, expand the appearance, and similar to before, we just want to move these into there. I think that looks quite nice. Deleted that earlier, I need to bring it back in. And there we go, finished mandala or mandala. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you've lasted to the end of the tutorial, because I know it was a little bit long and I know it was a little bit laborious, but it just shows that with a bit of practice and a few simple shapes and tools, you can create these mandala or mandala style graphics that look beautiful. So if you've liked it, please let me know below. If you haven't, still let me know below, because I'm happy to take on any of your feedback as always, because I want to improve on these videos, improve on the quality, but most importantly, improve on the content. So I'm going to leave it there. Tune in for the next one, and I'll see you.